All right. Hello, everybody, and apologies for being a little bit late today. It's been a long day, and hope everybody is having a good night, day, or whatever part of the world you're in, maybe morning, evening. So today we're going to do episode 6 of this series, and we're still working on this model. And the one big difference today from before, of course, is that ZBrush 2019 is out. So I will be using a lot of the capabilities in ZBrush 2019, and also I had the great honor to be a beta tester. So if you have any questions about the new version or want to see certain things, please let me know, and we will do our best to cover them. So let's see, for those of you that are just joining us and haven't seen the previous streams, I highly recommend you go take a look at them. They are all on Pixelogic's Twitch channel, as well as if you go to ZBrush Live and you look for my name, I think the last 5 that we did will show up there, and then you can watch those and catch up, and then you can join us. One of the other things that's a little bit different today is also that we are changing the time of the stream from Tuesdays to Fridays. So it's going to be every other Friday, and from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So please kind of adjust your schedules to that if you want to watch things live. Of course, watching things live is a little bit better because you can ask questions about what I'm doing, and I can clarify certain things. And if you have questions from the previous streams too, I'll be happy to answer them, but it's always good to kind of be on live. Hopefully you can do that, and if not, you're more than welcome to watch the streams online afterwards, and hope you find some useful things. So what we've been doing is we started out with a very simple model, and now that we have folders, I could have organized this whole thing in folders, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you kind of our little bit of a progress of what we've done. So I think it's this one. No, it's not. One of these has all of our, I think it's this one maybe. Yep, this one has all the progress of the different things that we did. And let me solo this out so I can go through the different history of all the different things. So we started out again with a very simple Z-sphere rig, and we replaced the attachments, the things that attach to Z-spheres, with a simple polygon like this. And what we also did was, after the fact, added a few more Z-spheres and started to get a gesture for the robot that we wanted, and then generated a skin from that, and then started working on the different pieces a little bit, kind of getting an idea of what we want, went with different looks, and finally, I think here it is, I'm pretty sure it is this Dynamesh? Yep, so we use Sculptress mode and ZRemesher to get this, and then we also Dynameshed it to get a different inner part of the robot, and then we basically decided what outside parts we want. So this is all in progress pieces, and I have a tool that has all of these in there just in case I need to get back to them. And then we did a Z-sphere sketch. So here you can see that we had the Z-sphere rig underneath, and then we used the Z-sketch capability to add a Z-sphere sketch. And we generated an adaptive skin out of that. And I don't know if this is the adaptive skin we had. I think we had a different one. So I think the adaptive skin settings probably reset themselves to what they were before, so I need to do a quick changeover here. Let me see. Yep, so I think we don't want Dynamesh on. Maybe up the resolution a bit. I think maybe, was this it? I don't remember. I can of course reload the file to get the previous one, so I'm not really going to worry about it too much right now. And then from that Z-sphere rig, we generated different pieces from the Z-sketch, and we ended up with this model that we are working on, which is over here. So today, since we have the new version of ZBrush, I'm going to use it to organize my mesh a little bit better. and also go over about some of the features. So if there are any specific things you want me to cover in the new ZBrush, please let me know in the chat. If you could also please let me know how the volume is. Is it too loud? Is it too low? I've noticed in the when I was watching some of my previous streams that the volume was a little bit low. So if you folks can tell me if the volume is good, we can proceed. Okay, I'll just wait a few minutes because I think there's a little bit of a delay. So I just want to do a quick volume check. All right, so Maximilian, thank you. Say it sounds good on Twitch. Anybody on YouTube want to chime in? And anybody on Facebook want to chime in as well? That would be great. All right, looks like Twitch, we're good to go. And we just have to look at some of these other channels. And I think there's a little bit of a delay for Facebook users, so we'll maybe hear from them soon. Okay, so again, if you have any questions about the new version of ZBrush, let me know. We are using that here. I'm really happy to be able to use it. It's actually really awesome. It's got some really great features. And as a matter of fact, okay, so Facebook and good. So I think we're good on all channels. Thank you everybody for responding. One of the things I want to point out here is that I did some recent posts. So there's two of them, and one is on ZBrush Central. Just go to ZBrush Central here, central.com. And if you go to the forums down here, in the main forum, I think a lot of the beta testers are posting their images, and there's quite a few that are really amazing. So let me see if mine is still in this list somewhere. Should be, unless there's a lot of new posts today, which is awesome. I think it might be a page back. It's amazing how fast this forum moves sometimes. So here we go, here I am. And so in my post, if you want to see some of my feedback on the new beta and some of the images I created, so this was done with the new NPR or non-photorealistic renderer. So this is one of the images that I worked on during the beta. And this is some information about the new ZRemesher, which is really, really amazing. So here I just modeled something very quickly in Moi 3D and then brought it into ZBrush and used ZRemesher 3.0, which created a really good clean mesh for me, subdivided it a few times, and then I loaded it into Substance Painter with the UVs from UV Master and just did a quick eye ray render. And as you can see, some of these edges are really nice and crisp. And also I could smooth them. I could work on these like they're regular geometry. So really a big boon to my workflow, to my hard surface workflow, and I'll be using that quite a bit in our streams and demos and in some of my models. So here I'm using the Snapshot 3D feature to make these wings. And also, these are alphas in Snapshot 3D, and hopefully we'll use some of these. These are ones that I made during the beta test, and I thought it would be a good idea to share them with the community, and luckily Pixelogic included them. So if you want to use these alphas, and I don't know if they used every single one of them, but there's quite a few of them in there. And so in ZBrush, if you wanted to use these alphas, if you go to Lightbox, under Lightbox here, there's a Spotlight menu, and there are these 4 spotlights. So this one is, and the names of them kind of are not very clear here, but they're basically AK Hard Surface 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you click on any one of these, you get all of the, this is going to be interesting to navigate. I think I need to put my texture menu over here. So I have my hotkeys. I don't have the hotkeys map for this. Again, a lot of this is pretty new. So let me go ahead and go into edit mode. Where is the wheel? All right. Let's see if this works. So let me try that one more time. So again, go to Lightbox. This might be because of the resolution of the screen. So let me try another one just for kicks. How about this one? And so I should see the spotlight wheel over here, but I'm not seeing it. And let me see if I can go into edit mode somehow. All right. Okay, I'm going to move my ZBrush screen to another monitor, see if I can grab that spotlight wheel. See if it comes up over here. Okay, and go into edit mode. Okay, I think we're good now, and I'll bring this back over. Sorry for the dead space there for a second. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so here is the wheel, and I'll bring all these spotlights over so you can see them. So you can see here that there are all these different pieces, and with the new capability of Snapshot 3D, I can choose any one of them. So here I'll choose this one right here and drag it over, maybe resize it a bit. And with just a press of a button here, I basically have generated a mesh. I think I replaced something, well, maybe I just added it to what was there. So I just generated this mesh, and now if I turn editing off, and I think, well, let's see if this works. I had a hotkey for this. Let me reload my hotkeys too. Let me see, do I have my hotkeys? I do have my hotkeys. All right. So here, for example, is this object, and now it basically created a 3D object over here for me. So if I turn edit mode off here, and I'm kind of wondering where that is. I usually have it in my UI over here somewhere. So let me see if I can bring up. I think there's a key you can press to bring this up. So my UI, usually my screen is a little bit bigger, so that button that turns this on and off is over here. And where is it in the UI? Here it is, it's under transform menu. So if I turn this off here, so notice that I just basically created this piece. Make this lighter color. So I just created this three-dimensional piece from this alpha right here. Right, and you can do a lot of different things. I'll probably be making some parts for my model using this today, but it's just as easy as that, and you get some really nice topology here too. So notice here I've got nice clean topology over here, and it's kind of just straight through, so at any point in time, if I want to make this bigger, wider, or whatever, I can very easily do that. And then even before I generate this, I could have done some other things to it as well. So I'll leave kind of that a little bit to the later. All right, irregular, you're asking if I will record the stream, and yes, all these streams are recorded, and you can watch them after the fact. So, yep, definitely recorded. You can go to ZBrushLive.com and go to the presenters, find me, and all my streams will be under there. It usually takes about 2 or 3 days after the stream for it to be on there. But I think on Facebook and Twitch, it's there right after. I'm pretty sure it is. Okay, so yeah, so this is kind of how easy it is to make these parts now, and you can create some really compelling pieces. And going back to my post here, actually, it's a good idea if you guys want to check out the new features to go to, and I'll just open up another page here of this. Of the same exact stream, right? And I just want to go to the home of ZBrush Central. So if you go to ZBrush Central and you click on this page, it basically brings up what's new. So it talks about all the different features, and there's some amazing artists showing a lot of great stuff on here. And how did it go to this? I think it went to the main ZBrush. Okay, what's so these are the new features: non-photorealistic rendering, Snapshot 3D, ZRemesher 3.0, folders, camera, and these two plugins we had before this version came out, but now they ship with the version. And one of the things that's really cool here is you can check out the gallery of the beta testers, and there's some really amazing images on here that you can see. Some of my fellow artists did some amazing work. So for example here, I think this is Pablo Munoz Gomez's work, where you basically took a very simple model and then generated a very painterly looking image using the non-photorealistic renderer. And these are updated, And there's some really amazing stuff. Here's one of mine that I did, right? So this was one of the images that I worked on and tested the software with. And there's some really neat ones over here, so I will leave this up to you to look at. So again, if you just go to ZBrush Central and click on this button, it takes you to this page, and then if you go to the gallery, you can see the gallery of all the beta testers, and there's some just amazing stuff here. So usually when you looked at ZBrush stuff, it never looked like this. This looked like something that's painted, looking very lame Decker, looking very illustrative. So it just opens up ZBrush to create some really new compelling renders. And just to let you know, by using these new renders, when I downloaded the new version of ZBrush, I basically took our model at the state it's in right now. So not completed, right? We've been working on this model for a while, and I don't know where it went. Let's see, where is it? Let me go back here. It's in solo mode. That's where it's not there. So here, this model that we've been working on this whole time, I just basically said, all right, well, what if I just do an NPR render with it? And I did. So here again, I just did a very simple NPR render of the model in the state that it's in now. So I did not do anything else to it. I just took it exactly the way it is, and then used some of the new filters on it to get this look, right? Just tweaked a few things, and it looks really good. 107 people seem to agree with me, so or seem to think that it's good. I've gotten some good coverage on it on Instagram. So again, and I've gotten people to like it that have not usually liked my posts, because I usually post stuff that's more photorealistic, stuff like this, for example. So what I'm posting now is completely different, where this is looking a little bit more like an illustration, and it's definitely getting a different audience to like my work, and I'm also catering to a new audience. And like I said, if you are in a hurry or you want to render something and get approval on it, you can use the NPR renderer to get that look. So here, why don't I go ahead and show you how that works. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to hide this piece for now. So we just have our previous robot. So I just kind of created an merged version of the robot, figured out a good angle, maybe turned on perspective. And one of the new things in the new ZBrush, which is really, really cool, is this camera capability. So here in the draw menu, I can choose, and let me dock that. Draw, there it is. And you can see here I've got all these different types of lenses I can use. So here I'm in perspective mode, so I'll say, okay, well, what does this look like with a 28 millimeter lens? So this is what it looks like. What does it look like with a 50 millimeter lens, 85, and I can type in whatever, like 120 millimeter lens, and get different looks for my model. So here I'm just going to leave it at 120, and this is the look that I get. And then I want to see what this looks like rendered, right? So here, I'll just go ahead and go into the render menu and go to render sets over here, and I'm just going to load in the default render set, right? So this is just the default render set, and when I go ahead and click on BPR render, as you can see, the render takes very little time, and this is what I get. And if I post this online or whatever, people might think this looks okay, it's interesting, but it's really not something that a lot of people are drawn to, this 3D look. So all I need to do is just go into BPR filters over here, and let's go into Lightbox, and there's a bunch that ship with ZBrush. And as you can see, there's quite a few of them, and some are donated by artists, and some are donated by the folks that make the software. So it's a great way to kind of look at your work in a different view. So here there's a black and white anime one. Let's see what it looks like this. So I just clicked on it, and notice here immediately I get the change. And maybe I don't need to see this many of these. So let me see if I can reduce the number of lines. Again, I'm kind of limited by my resolution here, so I need to get to this top part, and I don't know if there's a way to do it. Let's see if there is. Nope. All right, so we'll have to stick to this. I'll just have to hide it and hide it. So this is one of the renders right here. which looks good. It looks kind of like a photo or it looks like a computer model still, but let's go ahead and try some of these other ones. How about this one? Black and white anime, and I think maybe I have my polyframe on, so it's not really looking black and white. Now it will. Let me render it one more time. Now I guess it's going to stay this way because I've got the poly paint. Let's try a different one here. This one. How about this one right here? So notice I'm just going between the filters, just double clicking and getting different results. So here, for example, I've got a black and white result, like so, right? So now this looks completely different than what I usually get. Maybe the lighting isn't very good, but on a black and white image, you can change the lighting to come from a different direction. Click that BPR render again. Notice how fast it goes. And now I've got this type of look for that same robot. And now it looks a little bit more completed than what we have before. And I can continue to look at some of these filters. Here, if I want to look at a blueprint, for example, maybe this one right here, or maybe this one. So here I've got a really good blueprint view of my object. And so if I wanted to kind of get a blueprint of it, I could just kind of flip it around this way, click this button, maybe turn perspective off to get an isometric view. And there it is. So now this looks like a printed blueprint that I can use, right? And I can turn to this side, do it over again, and get the side view, and then turn it to the back, do this again. And notice how fast it is just to kind of get to the result, and then you're getting these results. So even with this unfinished model that I'm still working on, I can get some compelling looks. I can maybe get an okay of a art director, or get some feedback, or maybe look at my work in a completely different way. So let's look at some more of these filters. Maybe get a perspective like so on it. And here's an interesting one, charcoal. Let's render it. And now I'm getting a completely kind of a different look than what I had before. Let's try a few more here. There's some really neat ones in here. And even this one made it in here too. So now my image here looks more like an oil painting of sorts rather than a 3D object. So just by doing this, playing around, I found one that I really liked. I think it was this one right here, which is kind of an odd one, but it worked really good. So flat watercolors, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I get an image like this, okay? So now this totally does not look like it's something done in 3D. It looks like something out of Photoshop. Right, and so if I want to do an outline on this, I can. It's just, there are all these BPR filters, and if you're familiar with them from before, that's great. And if you're not, I'm sure that there will be plenty of tutorials for you to learn on how to use them. But here, one of the new ones is the outline, so I'll just go ahead and turn it on. So if this stuff is grayed out over here, it means it's off, and this dot is closed, meaning it's full, then that means that filter is off. So I'm going to turn this filter on. And the default thing here is that it's red. I don't want red, I want outline edge. So there's outline edge, right? So now I've got a kind of a bit of an outline over here. I can make that a little bit stronger. So now I've got a outline that outlines the outside part of the mech. So it's kind of like a pencil outline. And this is again looking like something that is not generated by ZBrush. It's looking like something that's been generated by I don't know, painting, maybe working in Photoshop, maybe doing something different. But what's great about this, and something that you can't do really in another program, is you can move the light. So right now notice the shadows kind of going behind the robot, but I want to go to the side. So I just moved the light, re-rendered it. Again, the render is pretty fast, and now I'm looking at it like this. So what if the light was over here? Right, let's see what that looks like. Right, so now that the lighting is in a different location, now this thing is lit from the bottom. Maybe I need to move it up a bit so I get a bit of a shadow. Maybe move it up to here. Let's see what that kind of lighting looks like. Okay, so you can see here that I'm getting a completely different, interesting look. Maybe move it over a bit from this model that I have not finished, but maybe I can show this to the art director, or maybe they can use it in some sort of publicity campaign, or maybe even repurpose it to a graphic novel or something like that. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, just one of these things where every version of ZBrush that comes out has some really kind of groundbreaking capability, and it allows you to do things like this. And I would have never thought to have my work be presented this way, but it is a very compelling way to present it. And the good news is that I don't have to finish my model to get a render. I can get something really compelling pretty quickly. Okay, so yeah, this filter is pretty good. So if I like this filter, I can just go ahead and save it and then use it again in the future, right, with all these settings. And I don't have to remember what these settings are. I can save them, and I can create my own kind of folder of filters that I can use. Let's try a few other ones here. Kind of like this one over here. It's pretty good. Looks like Paul made it. This one's good. I'll just move the model over and do another render. That's the other thing that I really like, is that the renders are really fast. So, you can kind of go, okay, well, I don't like that position. Maybe move this over to here. Let's do another render. Usually renders take a long time, but this is almost instantaneous, and you get some really good feedback really fast. So here is that. Somebody was asking, Super Dude, okay, yes, I will record the stream. Can we have folders within folders? You can't have folders within folders. It's one level of folders, but even that one level of folders is like a godsend, and I'll be doing that in a minute, reorganizing our existing model into a bunch of different folders. So you'll get to see how they work. Folders within folders might be a fun thing to have, but it might also introduce some complexity. So I don't know. I'm super happy that I have folders. I'm just gonna kind of celebrate that for a while, and then see how that goes. That's gonna open up a whole new bunch of possibilities for me. I already took this mech that I was talking to you about, this one over here. Let me see if I have a render of it somewhere. I should have a render of it in my Instagram of my gargoyle mech. And here it is. So this mech over here, this is a ZBrush mech, and basically I had all of these pieces kind of in a very long list, and it was kind of a nightmare to manage them. And I already took a bunch of them and put them in folders, and it's working out really great for me. And also it works with my macros to pose it as well. So I love the new kind of ability to have that. So not only can you have folders, so here, for example, I created one folder that has all the joints in it. So it's kind of a nice way to kind of arrange them and put them into one place. And then I can move this whole folder down to the bottom and just have it there. And remember when I showed you earlier the parts that we had, I could take those and have them in a folder here so they can not clutter up this area. I can have everything in folders within the same tool, and then work on them individually. So it's really nice. The other thing that's really nice is kind of the number of tools you see over here. So right now I think I'm on a 1080p monitor, or maybe a little bit more than that, but if I am on my 4K monitor, I can just pump this number up and I can see a bunch more subtools. The other thing that I really like is the ability to kind of move subtools around and put them in a different order, so you don't have to click on these buttons to order them. So just with this one little capability here, it's basically made my workflow a lot faster. It's definitely kind of one of those things where it's always great to have it. But it would have been great to have it before, but now it's here, and it's definitely welcome. All right, so another person's kind of in the same boat I'm in, saying they're happy about folders. Absolutely, yeah, it's a really good kind of addition. So here's another render I took, this dark ink one. Like again, right? So this is a completely other different look for this mech that looks interesting. So I can get so much mileage out of my existing models and my newer models that I'm going to make, just by kind of having this option as a way to present it while I'm working on it. So look at that. That looks so cool, right? I mean, put some text on top of it, and then it could be kind of a cover for a graphic novel or an illustrative kind of an illustration of sorts. All right, anybody have any questions about the filters? They're really cool. There's a bunch that ship with ZBrush, and a lot of these are really nice on their own. You probably can use them the way they are. And this one's kind of cool too. I should show this one also. So you can get pixel art. So here's the pixel art version of my model. And again, all I had to do is just press one button. You get rid of light box, and there's a pixel art version of that Mech, right? Just like that. I got a pixel art version of it, and it looks like it just has 4 filters for it. So one of them is the Orton filter, which basically I think makes it a little bit lighter, and you can turn these off and on. So this kind of makes it look better. The next one is sharpen to kind of get sharp edges. And then this one is overpaint color, and that looks like it's just those 3. So this overpaint color is what's doing the pixelization, and you can change that to be smaller pixels or bigger pixels, right? So, you know, you can kind of choose the pixelation that you want. And again, this is in 3D, so you can rotate your model and re-render. Right, and you can also change where the light's coming from. So let's say if the light's coming from the top, maybe this way, you can move that light over to there, do another render, and get a completely different pixelated look of your model. And again, just kind of, you know, tweak this around to get it to be more pixelated or less pixelated, and the response is that fast. So, yeah. Kudos to the Pixelogic guys. They really kind of knocked it out of the park with this one capability. And so now, in addition to rendering stuff in KeyShot, getting those nice photorealistic renders, you can also get some really cool stylistic stuff as well. So, yeah. All right, so it looks like nobody else has questions about these non-photorealistic filters. What I recommend is if you have ZBrush, and you have some models that you've worked on, whatever they are, whenever they're from, you know, bring them in and just test them out with this non-photorealistic filter list. And just kind of go through here and pick different ones and see what your model will look like. I think this one was really compelling too over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one as the last one. And they're very addictive too. Like, you know, you can spend hours doing some amazing stuff with it. So here we go. Here's this one that starts out this way, and what I want to do is maybe I don't want these background lines, so those can be turned off. I think maybe it's this one. Yep, so now I've got this kind of a render. Again, looks like something that's been painted, right? And again, if I want to add a little bit of an outline to it, I can just by clicking on one of these buttons, turning it on, going over, and there's 2 outlines it has. It has one by cavity and one by edge. So here I'm going to turn on the cavity one and go to 0. Let's see what that looks like. Doesn't look like it's doing much. Let's add one more over here, and this one is going to be the cavity, not the cavity, but the outline that is edge outline. Okay, so now I'm getting a bit of an edge outline here, and let me pump that up to -100, and you can see I've got a little bit of that edge going on. And again, all these filters can be manipulated while the render is done, so you can kind of adjust it, and you don't have to re-render it. You can just do it right off the bat. So yeah, non-photorealistic render is kind of puts a whole new spin on making work, and I'm going to be using it quite a bit in my work, and also every chance I get I'm going to go in and bring in some older models and see if I can get new renders out of them. All right, so moving on to our model, let's see, where are we? We're kind of, last time I think what we did is we started working on different parts. So here, let's start organizing things by using folders. So first thing is this guy that's been hidden, right? So I basically had that guy in there for scale. So let's go ahead and select this guy and add him to a folder, right? And this is just, you know, let's just say parts. Okay, so now I've got a folder and it's got the guy in it, so I can turn off that entire folder, and whatever I put into this folder will no longer be visible once I'm not on it. Okay, so here we go. And let's see, there's this part right here, which I think was his previous head. And what I want to do is I don't want this part to show, so I'm just going to move it over to that folder, and now it will be hidden. Let's see, this part's showing, and this part right here I kind of want to keep hidden because I'm going to use it, but this part right here, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll use this part too, so I'm going to keep that hidden. Keep moving down my list. Right, let's see if I can, here's a hidden part right here, and here's a copy of it. So here, if I want to keep this part, I just scroll up, drop it into that folder, and you can see here the number next to the folder will indicate what is going into that folder. Okay, so all these other parts are visible, so I'll just kind of go down the list. Here's another one that's hidden, full body. Let's go ahead and move that up to the hidden parts. Right, drop it in there. And to close the folder, you just click on it, it just closes up. Pretty, you know, if you're familiar with folders in Photoshop or other programs, it's basically the same. And then there's this one, this chest plate that was high res. Let's move that up, drop it into the folder. And this hand is what we're working on. Okay, so here I had a kind of, what do I have here? I think I have, oh yeah, so I basically copied the model, made 3 of them, and I did this just so I could do an NPR render in the, I'll go ahead and do it and show you. So if I'm going to do a blueprint of this thing, so here it is. This is the painted version, but just with one button over here, one button press, I can go ahead and choose one of these blueprint filters, and there's quite a few of them. And they're all really good. So here's that, and hide the light box, and here we go. I have a blueprint image of my model just with one button press. I mean, this is really, really kind of a cool thing to be able to do. All right, so I'm going to put that in here as well, and let's see if there's any other pieces I can move into there. Right, now the hand we're going to work on, and then this thing we just created, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that for now, and maybe reduce this number back down, and I think we are good. So this joints folder I'm going to move all the way to the top, so all these things that you used before work as well. So here's a folder that has joints in it, and here's a folder that has the parts in it. Okay. All right, so we're kind of, let's see, about 41 minutes in. Let's go ahead and do some work on this model. And I'm just really excited to talk about the new version. It really kind of makes life easier and adds some cool things. So let's look at our model here. I think we were working on hands last time, so let's continue to do that. And I think I started a hand over here, so I'm going to go into solo mode, bring that hand up, and continue to work on it. So let me go into rotate mode here. So we're going to give this kind of model a bit of a kind of a more modern gripping hand. Maybe turn this upside down. Maybe scale up these fingers a little bit more. So all right, so it's looking good. Yep, so this is kind of how they would work. And I'm kind of thinking this one needs to be a little bit bigger too. So in essence, there's like 3 big fingers and then 2 supporting ones. And let's see if I can make the supporting ones a bit more interesting. All right, that's good. Let's see what that looks like as an adaptive skin. Turn polyframe on. That's good too. Maybe I can add another C-sphere over here to get better topology. Maybe another one over here. So over. In this direction. I think this is as good as it's going to get, so that's fine. I don't even know if I can get to that inside first Z-sphere. I'm going to try and get to it so I can scale it up a bit. I think I see this part over here, so I'm going to scale. And yep, that's kind of more along the lines of what I want. Okay, this is looking good. So this is going to be the hands that it has. So again, what we talked about earlier was that these were going to be hands that can be attached and detached. And there's a lot of detail here that I kind of don't want. So let me see if I can get rid of some of this detail. I think I'm at the lowest possible detail I can have. So fine, that's good. I'm just going to add an adaptive skin. So now here it is. And what we're going to do here is go into that skin, copy that tool, and then go into our model and paste it. So now I've got a copy of the hand in here. And then so the Z-sphere is kind of a nice thing to have. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a folder and call it Z-spheres, Z-sphere models. Right, and so now that I have that, I can hide it. I don't want to see the Z-sphere models. I'm just going to hide them in here. And I'll also move this model all the way to the top. Actually, a better place to put these folders probably is at the bottom. So I'm going to go move all these folders to the bottom for now. Because these are all supporting objects. They're not really part of the main model that I'm using. So put them at the bottom. And on top, I should put something that when it saves out, it has all the different looks. So here we go. Going back to our model over here, getting out of solo mode. That's a kind of a weird place for the hand to be. Let's move it into place and scale it to its correct scale. So here it is, press W, scale it down, move it over, rotate it this way, and of course I'm going to duplicate it on the other side. So here we go, make it about this size. How many people here have been using ZBrush for more than 2 or 3 years? Curious to know. Let's see, let's wait a few minutes for the feed to catch up. So how many people here have used ZBrush for like 2 years? How many people have used it for 3 or 5? So first group of people, just put in the number of years you've used ZBrush for. Close to 3 years, okay, great. 3.5 years, all right. Getting a bunch of people responding. Okay. So, okay, just before 4 came out, yep. Cool. So, for those of you that have been using it for a while, wow, okay, look at all that. There's somebody who's been using it since version 2, that's great. Yep. About 5 years, 2 years. Okay, so between 2 and 5, that's great. So what happens is that one of the things that you used to have to do is if you wanted to mirror and weld, like if you wanted to create a copy of this thing to go to the other side, right? So if you wanted a copy, what you had to do is you had to go to mirror and weld. So here, geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld, this one right here. And you had to have the model kind of on the right side. So here, it's on this side. So if I clicked on mirror and weld, it will copy it over. But if I had it over here, and I clicked on mirror and weld, a dialog box used to come up and says, well, if you mirror and weld nothing, you're going to get nothing on the other side too. So one of the things they did in this version, which is like one of those things where like you just go like, why wasn't there in the beginning? But I'm glad it's there now, is the ability to have this be at any side. So have it be on the left or the right. And if you click on mirror and weld, it will mirror and weld it for you, right? So now it went from here to here. And then if you had this part over on this side and clicked on mirror and weld, it will mirror and weld it for you over here, right? So now you basically have the option to do it. Whoa, somebody just sent a question that's like an essay. All right, I'm gonna take a minute to read it. Okay, so this person's saying that it didn't have a camera before, but it does now, which is great. Scene view, problem solving expert. Okay, so yeah, that's a very good point. So if you had the camera before, right? Like the camera before was this. I'm gonna go ahead and bring the draw menu, dock it. So before you basically had the camera, which was this. Where is it? this thing right here, right? Perspective mode, right? This was your camera. And you clicked on it, and then if you have this camera off, all you had was this angle of view, which basically had a number in there, but that number did not correspond to any lenses or any real cameras. And then so you'd sculpt on something, and then it would look really cool here, and then you'd export it into another program, and you'd render it, and it just would not be right. So yeah, now you can, if you don't have this on, if you have the camera on, whatever camera you have, however it looks in ZBrush. So if you have a 35mm camera, for example, and you focus in on your model, or you have an 18mm camera, turn perspective on here. So whatever type of camera you're having, right? So you can kind of see my model change as I'm changing the lenses of the camera. And of course you can also type in a focal length, but these are all popular lens focal lengths. So 35mm, 50 is really popular, 24 is popular, 18. So when you choose one of these cameras, one of these angles, and you kind of frame your object, you're looking at it from the camera and looking at it this way. Now if you export this model via FBX, so OBJ files do not export cameras, but FBX does. So here, if you go to the Z plugin and go to FBX export import, let me dock that so we can see it. Right here it is. So when you are exporting the stuff here, it will export the camera too. So it will export your camera into whatever program can import an FBX file with a camera. So that is really, really, really awesome to be able to do that. And it's good because you can match your model to a scene. And it definitely is another one of those things where you know, it's really welcome, just like folders. So when they announced both of these two features, folders and cameras, at the ZBrush Summit this year, a lot of ZBrush artists were super happy, and now that is available, so you can use it. All right, let me read the rest of your question over here. For example, use okay, same models, way different. That's right. It used to look way different. Now it does not. Now it will look exactly the same. So if you choose your camera in here under the document folder, or sorry, the draw folder, right? If you choose your camera in the draw folder here and you choose the settings for it, when you export it with FBX, it will export it and your model will look exactly like this, right? So it is definitely a big addition to what we can do now in ZBrush. All right, so now that I've added these hands, let me see if I can find the old hands and get rid of them. There they are, and luckily they're all together. So what I'm going to do here is, again, I don't want these hands right now, so I'm just going to move them up or down, sorry, to where I placed those folders. So here, I just put it in the parts folder for now, so I don't have to see the hands anymore. I guess I have this one merged model that I'm on, so now I don't see the hands, right? So now I've got all my parts. Maybe this merged model here, I'm going to move into the parts folder right now too, so all I see is kind of the model that I have. So these are kind of the way the hands are going to be for this this robot. And again, these hands are detachable, so they can take them off and put other hands on. And for now, it's going to have these types of articulated hands, and then I'm going to go ahead, and I think this would be a good project for me to use the Snapshot 3D with. Okay, so I think I'm happy with the gesture of the hands and the location and the size. So I'm going to use my Z-sphere model here as kind of a basis to go ahead and model the hands. So to do that, I'm just actually going to go back and have the hands be in the center, because I'm just going to work on one hand, and then I'm going to move it over. Let's keep it maybe this size right here. Let's see, let me make it smaller. Make it smaller. All right, that's fine. Before I mirror it over, what I'm going to do is just center this in my scene, so I can just work on it. So where did that go? W. Okay, let me just orient this correctly and just move this to the center of the scene and solo it out. So I'm just going to be working on this hand and generating a hand that, or parts that will make this hand. Okay. Yeah, I know that is huge, epic. I think ArtStation Volk, I guess, is saying that the camera is definitely a big deal, and yes, it is. You know, it's just so funny because I would have been super happy with this program if it just had ZRemesher 3.0, but that, in addition to the folders, in addition to the camera, and you know, throw the NPR renders as a bonus, makes this really cool version to have. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and symmetry on. It is. Just go ahead and start getting some gesture out of this hand. I've got a lot of spans here that I don't need. Like, I don't need all these spans. So let me just go into ZModeler and get rid of some of these. So maybe this one I don't need. This one I don't need. Right. So all these edge loops here are kind of going to create a lot of geometry that I don't want at this point, so I don't really need to have them. I think this is good, and then I need to do this for the other two fingers as well. Easy enough process. So here I'm going to make my life easier and just say delete edge loop complete, and then do nothing for faces and do nothing for vertices. So now I can just go in and kind of just pop these off like that. This one's gone. And symmetry's on, so it's happening on the other hand. Maybe keep this one. That's good. I'm just kind of reducing the complexity of my model just so that I can maybe keep that one, but get rid of these two and get rid of all of these. Here. Oops, not that one. Okay, that's looking okay. And maybe get rid of this one. So I've just reduced the complexity. Take a look here. I think some new questions are coming in. ArtStation Volk, I'll be interested to know how it's going to work out for you, right? So let us know. Next time you're on the stream, let us know if it's working for you, and always good to find out how other people are using this stuff. And yeah, if it's working with Houdini, that's great. So here I'm going to go back to inserting edge loops and put one over here, and I think maybe one over here. All right, so I just basically put down a little bit of topology to make this work. And let me kind of figure out what this hand is going to look like. Do that to it, like so. Turn the floor off, I don't need it. And do this. Right, again, I always work with very low poly geometry at first and then start adding more complexity as time goes on. Maybe make these fingers a little bit fatter so they can grip stuff. Alright, so that's looking mechanical and good, and that's a good start for me. So alright, so now that I have this kind of as a skeleton, let's go ahead and start building out the hand. So to do that, again, I'm going to use, and I'm actually going to put these on my UI right now to make my life easier. So I'm just going to go to config here, enable customization. And I think a few of these were in the texture, so I'm going to select this icon, drop it down here, and for good measure, let's put this one over here so we can add parts to it. I don't think I need to do any of this other stuff, and I think the other one was under stroke, was it? Nope, under transform, yeah, edit, there we go, put that over here. So now I've got these three buttons on my UI, turn there, and then turn enable customize off, and for good measure, let's just store this configuration so we can come up next time. Alright, and so now let's go into Spotlight and choose one of the ones I made. So I think this one of these has some good parts for fingers. Yep, and this is it. So I'm going to edit these. Let's move them over, all of them, over to here. So basically I have all of these parts to work from, and this one looks like a little bit like a finger, so let's bring it over. Actually, a good thing to do instead of bringing it over is just to click on this button that duplicates it, so now you have a copy of it, and bring the copy over so you have a pristine version right here. And let's go ahead and start working on this. So I'm just going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger here, like so, and make it they called it Christmas in the Corner, which I think is an awesome name for it. So if you look at all these buttons down here on the bottom left, they're green and red, hence the Christmas colors. And they do some amazing stuff. So extend is one of the nice ones, and basically based on the color, so you see that there's a red line over here, the horizontal line, and the green line is the vertical line. So if I want to manipulate something horizontally, I click on the red buttons, and if I want to manipulate something vertically, I'll click on the green buttons. So what I want to do is I want to make this a little bit longer, so I'm going to use the extend Y. So I'm just going to make this a little bit longer so it kind of looks like a finger part, like that. Okay, that looks good. And then maybe flip this over to the other side. So I think this is the flip. So I'm going to flip it over to the side and then rotate it. And I don't want to rotate everything. This is something I'm kind of getting used to. So if you hold the shift key down before you rotate, by the way, they have undo in this too now, which is nice. I don't know if you've used Spotlight before, but undo is one of those things that's really cool for it. So the thing I was having a problem with is if I hold shift down and rotate, it's going to rotate all of them, which is not what I want. I just want to rotate this one, but I want to rotate it with snapping. So you start the rotate, then you hold shift down, and then it will snap to 5 degrees, right? So here's it kind of horizontal, maybe one more. Nope. Get that back to the way it was before, extend it this way, and then flip it. So I want to flip it around this way. No, maybe, let's see, no, I don't want to extend it this way at all. Right, good time for ZBrush to do its quick save. And next time what I'll do is I'll reduce the number of tools here and put them in folders so ZBrush takes less time to load. Or save, I'm sorry. And then now what we want to do is we want to flip this the other direction. So we want to flip it in the red direction like that, and then we want to rotate it. So start rotating, hold shift down until I get 90 degrees. So this is kind of a part that I want to use. Maybe if I resize it and maybe extend it somehow this way. Let's see if I can do that in the red direction, maybe like so. Okay, so this is going to be this part of the finger right here. All right, so okay, that's good. And what I want to do is just generate this part. So to generate this part, I'm going to, well, actually, before I do that, let me see, do I need to subtract anything from it? Let me make it a little bit bigger. Maybe I need to subtract, maybe I don't like this top part that's kind of pointy like that, so I'm going to move this over to here and move over, get another part maybe that has a horizontal on it, maybe this one right here. Let me select it, move it over, actually I should duplicate it, follow my own advice. Bring this over and make it bigger like so, and what I want to do is I want to use this to make this top kind of pointy part straight. So move this over to here, and notice that there's a Boolean here that adds it, but what I want to do is subtract, and as I move on to this, up here in the kind of the status area, it tells me what I can do. So if I want to subtract it, I have to hold Alt down, which is fine, and I click on this, and now notice that that kind of shaved off that tip up there. So that's good. Again, I can undo. Maybe I don't want to shave off that much of it, maybe this much of it, and then just Boolean that out. And then maybe I want to add like some sort of a hole over here. So let me see if there's something that would work for that over here. Right, so I don't need this part anymore. I can delete it, and maybe this one over here, maybe this one will work. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to duplicate that one and then drag a copy of it over. Make it a bit bigger like that. Move it over here. And maybe subtract that as well. So same exact thing. Alt, click on this Boolean button, and that basically subtracted that part. So now I've got this looking this way, which is looking good, but maybe I don't want. I want this part to kind of not be there. So I'm just going to rotate this thing completely around. Like so. Move it over here, and then again, just subtract it. To create a part that looks like this. So I started out with a completely different looking part, and I'm getting something different. And now let me see if I can use a different piece here. I don't need this one anymore. And choose like another piece that can, this looks really thin over here, like it could break. So maybe add one of these guys over to kind of add a bigger knuckle. I think there were some questions here, so I'll answer them in a minute here. Let me kind of get this to where I want it to be, maybe about that much, maybe this big, move it over to here, right, kind of too big still, make it smaller. The undo in Spotlight is such a cool add-on, like, I mean, I did that thing where I press shift again, okay, here we go, and just kind of place this over here this way. All right, that's good. Now this time I don't want to subtract, I want to add. So if I just click on this, now I've added that piece to it. Okay, undo that, add, and make this a bit smaller. So it's just looks like it's coming out from here. Like that, there it is. Okay, so this is going to be kind of one of the pieces of the fingers. So now that I have this kind of the way I wanted it to be, I'll go ahead and let's see, what do I have on? I've got all these parts on, but whatever part I'm on this part right here. It's going to make it as thick as that part, which is fine. I can always adjust the thickness. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, this is great. Make a snapshot 3D with this, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn Spotlight off. Oh, I should not have perspective on when I'm doing this. So let's go ahead and go back. Select this. I just created a part, by the way, that I don't need, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. Okay, and what I'm going to do is go back to this and make sure I select the right one, this one, right? So it's selected, and then Snapshot 3D, and that basically created this part. So again, I'm going to turn this off, and this is the part I have. Okay, it's a bit too thick for what I need. And also somehow it created it at an angle. So easy enough to just to delete it, go back, make sure the angle is what I want it to be. And also another thing that's kind of a good thing to do, and let me do that here. I'm just going to append one of these Polymesh 3Ds and initialize it as a cube. And so I basically have something that can tell me whether or not I'm flush with the surface, right? The hand could be a little bit rotated, so it could be a bit confusing. So now I just have this part over here, and I can go ahead and turn this back on and go into edit mode, select this one, right? That's selected, and make Snapshot 3D, and it's going to be the same size or same kind of depth as this box was. So here's my part, and turn this off again. There's the part that I need, exactly what I want. Now what I want to do is not have it be this wide, so I can just fix that by kind of doing this. All right, so there's that piece. All right, and it looks good, pretty much exactly what I want. Now let's go ahead and put that on the finger. So I don't need to see this cube anymore. Where is everybody? Okay, I'm solo mode. Wow, this is going to be huge. All right, so I'm just going to hide everything else and just show the finger and this piece. Resize this a bit more and place it next to where I want that finger to go. All right, let me just stop for a second and look at what's going on with the questions. Right. Brian is saying, looks like it was from War of the Worlds. Are you talking about the hand? And then Krishan says it's awesome. It is. And hi, Ben. How's it going, man? All right. So turn transparency on here and move this over to where that finger is going to be. So let's say it's going to be this piece like this. And maybe we have one more of these pieces. So I'll just peel one off by holding Control down, making a copy of it, doing this. Let's see if this works. If not, I'll just make another piece for the other part. Actually, this is not really working. I don't like it, so I'm just going to leave this the way it was. Just have this one be over here. And what I want to do is create a bunch of these to replace all these other parts. Okay, so here is this piece. And what I want to do is I want to create 5 of them. And so I can either duplicate this and place it, which I guess I'll do that here. I'll just duplicate it again by using Control Drag and then rotate it and then place it over here. So here is one of those pieces for this part of the hand right here. Side, rotate it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Like so, and then one more, and that's going to go on the bottom. And again, I always want to kind of maintain the gesture that I had before, so I can kind of place these over where that piece is going to be. Okay, so here's this, like that, this. All right, good, good, good. And now what I want to do is I want to mirror and weld this whole, oh wait, is this right? Nope. Make sure I angle it correctly. Okay, this one's good, but the one in the middle is not. So I'm just going to mask this one. Let me go to Mask Lasso. This is the one I need to fix right here. Let me see if I can get a good angle to just get this thing in one shot. Here we go, this will do it. So here we go, mask this, invert the mask, and let's move this to align this to maybe this way. Okay, and I think this needs to move over. Here we go. I think more or less, no, maybe a little bit more this way, a little bit more this way. Okay, getting things to kind of line up is kind of a trick, but you can make it work. Okay, so this is all very good, and let's kind of get this back to normal here. It looks like it's X direction, so let's do a mirror and weld. Okay, so I've got all those pieces in place, so now I got to worry about this piece right here and how it would work. Okay, so let me take a quick tea break here and see if there's any questions. Can you set the density of the Snapshot 3D mesh? I think you can. I think all of the settings for it are under preferences, and there's a Snapshot 3D thing in here, or under Spotlight maybe. Yeah, here we go. Move the preferences, dock it over here to the left. And look through here. So intensity, I think there are 2. There's the smoothing and retain corners. These I think have to do with Snapshot 3D. Okay, so it doesn't look like it does. However, I've found a way to do it, and it works really, really well. So here, let's say I want it to be less dense. Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to ignore all the stuff that I'm working on with the hand, excuse me, and go back to this box, turn Spotlight back on, and have this part right here. Okay, so here's my part, And what I want to do is I want to go ahead and go into edit mode in Spotlight. Okay, and I want to generate a new one of these, right? So I'll just go ahead and click on Snapshot 3D. And now I have, turn this off, I have this piece. Okay, and basic material. All right, so here we go. I've got this piece. And if you look at it, the density is adjusted in such a way so that you can have the shape conform to what the image was below it. Now you can see that it's a little bit smoother. So here, if you look at my image, you can see that these angles are a little bit sharper and these are a little bit smoother, right? So I think the snapshot smoothing is what controls the smoothness. And for what I've got here, I'm happy with it. And retain corners, I think, is something that will help you retain the corners of the alpha. So these are the two settings that you can set in here, but I don't know if that's going to change the density. I haven't tried it. That might be one way to go. But I have another way of doing it, which is kind of a lot easier for me, and that way I also have some good control over it, right? So here I've got this part. I'm going to turn Spotlight off, and what I want to do here is just select, this one polygon or this one face of that object. And notice maybe I need to turn double on so I can see the back. Okay, so there is my part, and I'm going to delete the hidden parts. Okay, so I've got just this piece, and again, by going into the new handy dandy ZRemesher. So notice here that this button is there, ZRemesher, but there's also the older version if you, for some reason, want to use it. But I'm going to turn ZRemesher on, but before I do that, I'm going to use this new feature called Detect Edges. And I might want half the number of half the density that's in here, right? So I can half the density, or I can double it, or I can just go to adaptive and actually choose the number of targeted polygons I want. So here I'm just going to go for half, and let's go ZRemesh it. So now it just ZRemeshed this object, and it has half the density, and I can continue to do this until I get a density that I'm okay with, and it's maintaining the shape. So here the shape's kind of starting to fall apart. So maybe I can go, this is kind of the best possible density I can have to retain my shape. I could delete some edge loops here, but I don't have to, but I have what I need here, so now the density is less. Or if I want to go the other direction, so this density is okay, but I want it to be denser, I can go to double, and then ZRemesh it. And then I have double the density. Whoa, I think I got that other piece back, didn't I? Let's delete hidden again. I think I undid one too many. Okay, so let's go to double, ZRemesh it. Notice it's nice and fast. And now I've got double that density, right? So I have that same shape, but I've got more density than I had before. But I'm just going to go less, right? So I'm going to go less. Detect Edges is on. ZRemesher is on. Let's make sure that the deleted parts are deleted. Okay, and then now I can just go to half and ZRemesh it. And that gives me a little bit less density. One more time. Even more less density, but it's good. And now if I want to regenerate that other piece, I can just go ahead and go into ZRemesher. Go to ZModeler, and I want to QMesh everything, all polygons, and now I have that same thing I had before, but it's lower resolution, lower density, and there it is, right? So that's how I would do it if I wanted lower density of the snapshot mesh. But usually the snapshot mesh that you get is pretty good. I think I can kind of just stick with this. If I want this type of shape, it gives me the right number of polygons to get it to be what I want. And then I can adjust the width to what I want it to be. I don't have to start out with a cube or something that is exactly what I want. I can always adjust this because it's basically just lines going across, right? It's just lines going across. I can adjust it to the depth that I want, and if I want to add extra edge loops over here, I can always go into ZModeler and click spacebar, insert multiple edge loops, and I can specify how many edge loops I want, or I can have it be interactive. So here, let's say if I want to insert edge loops, I can add as many edge loops as I want. Again, you want to kind of get that square shape, so there they are. And if I want to increase them, I can as well. So here I'm going to do the same thing, but let me turn creasing off. Where is that? Interactive, spline radial, flat. I guess it has to add a crease, that's fine. Right, so I'm just going to add these edge loops like so, and now I've got pretty much a evenly dense model. And then if I want to sculpt on this, so let's say I want to actually sculpt on this, I can. I'm just going to turn polyframe off and maybe choose something like damp standard. And if I want to add some details on this, notice that it is nice square polygons. All I need to do is maybe divide it once or twice. And I'll have good topology, and I can go in and put all sorts of interesting details, alphas, whatever, on this surface itself. Okay, let's see. Okay, Kyle, good, that got answered for you. And now I want to actually do more work with this piece, right? So let's go back to our subtools, and here's where we had all these 5 different pieces. I can delete this one, I don't need it anymore. So here's the hand, and all the different pieces, like so, right? And I think, is this the hand we're working with? It is. Right, so here are all the different pieces, and this is kind of what I'm going to start with. But maybe these look a little bit boring, right? So what I want to do is maybe just keep one and continue to work on it using the Spotlight 3D. So I'm just going to keep this one, delete the hidden ones after all that positioning, right? And do some more work. So now I have kind of this shape in the front. Maybe go to the center of this thing, rotate it back so it's horizontal, like so. And what I want to do is I want to do some extra cutting into this. So I want it to look more like a mechanical piece. So I'm just going to turn it around this way, bring my spotlight back on, and maybe choose this piece right here. Go to edit mode, choose this piece, duplicate it, and bring it out. So you can delete this one, I don't need it anymore. And this one I kind of want to keep. It kind of is neat. And at any point in time, if you want to save this as an alpha, you can. I'll show you how to do that too. So here, if I want to keep this shape and kind of have it in my library, just like I have all these other pieces, right? I can generate a alpha out of it. And the way to do that is kind of a workaround, but it is pretty effective. So here, just going to wait until this gets done. So here's my alpha that I just created. I'm going to go ahead and snapshot it. So now it has a snapshot, right? There it is. So it generates this mesh. And then what I will do is turn this off. So let me solo this out. So it's just this mesh right here, right? And it's long because what I had before was a long piece. And if I want this as an alpha, now in the alpha menu there is a button that says from mesh. And you can frame this like that. And you can say okay, and now you have an alpha of that. And then you can just add that alpha to your spotlight. So I think there's a button here that says add to spotlight, which is this one. So there's the alpha, let's choose it. And I don't know why this is not on. Maybe I need to make it into a texture. So now it's a texture. Yep, that's what I need. I need it to be a texture. Now it's a texture, and click on this, and now it adds this to my spotlight. So I have it, it could be part of this, and then I can just save the spotlight. So go to spotlight and save it, and I can bring it back up. Okay, let's see, this was a question. All right, so under what option is there a ZBrush 2019 download link? I think I don't work for the company, so I don't know these answers specifically. But if I were to guess, what you would do is you would go to here, get ZBrush, and notice now that there is 3 different options of how to get ZBrush, which is great. Before you just had to shell out $895 to get it. which actually, is well worth the price because you get free upgrades. And I've got, since I bought ZBrush, I haven't had to pay for a single upgrade, which is awesome. And so, if you're going to use ZBrush all the time, this is definitely the way to go. But if you have a project, it's just $40 for a month. It's like less than a game. Or you can get for $179.95 for 6 months. And I didn't have the time. This has been a crazy busy week for me, but I think I have a coupon that you can get $30 off of this price. So if you're interested, let me know, or tune in next week, and I can give you that coupon code so you can get it. But once you subscribe, then you basically will go into the Pixelogic page. So pixelogic.com. And over here under Get Help, you click on My Licenses, and that will show you your licenses, right? So that will show you where your license is, and I think it will tell you where you can download it from. So there's the download center. So I would assume that's where it is. But of course, at any point in time, if you have questions, you can always go to the support center and submit a ticket. I think they get back to you within 24 hours. They're really usually very good. Anytime I've asked a question, they've been Johnny on the spot with them. Right, so that's how you can get help, and that's how you can find out more about the licenses. Okay, so you found it. Awesome. Okay, so now that I have this piece that we just made, what I want to do is cut some grooves into it, so I kind of have a multi-dimensional version and not just kind of a boring shape. So what I'm going to do is turn Spotlight off for a minute and zoom in on where this piece is. I guess this is not the one I want, but the one I had before, this one, right here. And what I want to do is I want to cut a groove into this thing, right? So I'm just going to rotate it at an angle, bring Spotlight back on, and let's see which one will work better. Maybe this piece right here. Right, let's duplicate that, bring a copy of it out. And notice here I can snap it right to the center of this object, right? So first of all, I want to click the spotlight itself. So notice as I get close to my alpha, it slaps to the middle of the alpha, and then I can move the alpha and snap it to the middle of this. Resize it like so. And then what I want to do is shrink it in size. So I'm just going to use the extender. Again, I'm going to go in the red direction. So I'm going to go this way to about there. And then I'm going to move this up. So for it to be in the center, I have to hold Shift down. And I want to rotate this 90 degrees around, like so. Okay, and move it up to about there. Make this a little bit bigger. Maybe use the green extender to extend it out this way. And what I want to do is I want to cut a groove like this into that shape. So if I snapshot it right now, what it's going to do is it's going to create that piece as a positive piece. But if I, again, looking up here, if I look and see, it says to make a subtraction piece, you click Alt and click it. So I'm going to click Alt and click on Snapshot 3D. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a piece for me over here and also set it to negative, right? So now I'm going to start a Boolean piece, turn Live Boolean on, right, and turn solo off, and now I can see after I turn this off that this is kind of the piece I'm going to get, right? And I don't know if that's a good place for it. I might move it up a bit. Okay, I don't know if that's a good place for it either, but what if I do this thing down below here or turn it around? So notice here I'm going back and forth between Snapshot 3D mode and live Boolean mode to kind of figure out the piece that I want. So maybe that is how I want that piece to be. Okay, I'm liking how this is. So once I'm happy with that, I just go to Boolean, make Boolean mesh, and I've got that piece as its own piece right here. Let's go ahead and turn on polyframe. Notice that I've got all this junk that Booleans create. And before, it was a pain in the butt to fix these, but now with ZRemesher 3, I kind of like that I can get this to be decent topology with just a few clicks. So here I'm just going to click on Detect Edges. I'm going to say Keep Groups because I want to keep the polygroups that it has. And let's go ahead and see what that does, just with one button click. Okay. Waiting a few minutes here. And there it is. So it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Okay, but I can do better. I think the first thing I'm going to do is turn symmetry on. Oops. So I have X symmetry on it. And also mirror and weld kind of makes this more symmetrical. So I've got two symmetrical pieces. And I think what I want to do is I want to maybe up the polygon count, or let's just go for double what's there. So I'm just going to choose double what's there. So I've got Keep Groups on, Detect Edges on, double, and maybe not adaptive. Let's see what that does. Okay, that was pretty fast, and for the most part it's pretty good. There's some interesting things going on in this area over here. I could probably do better. But this area under here is not really areas that I'm going to see, so I might just be happy with what this did. I can do one other thing here, is that by holding the Alt key down I can use another algorithm, and let's see if that produces something a little bit better. Wow, look at that, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I really like topology, and I spend a lot of time retopologizing my objects, and now this is pretty automatic. Looks like there's a few hiccups over here that I can probably fix by just smoothing this a little bit. So let's see if that works out. So here I'm going to smooth, polish by features, and I'm just going to put in like a low number here, maybe, yeah, but that little tap did it already. So now I've got those sharp edges, and I've got a pretty interesting looking piece, and I can continue to work on it. So this is good enough, right? And what I'm going to do is duplicate this and then continue to work on it again. Maybe add some inclinations over here. So let's go ahead and bring a new spotlight on. Again, from the ones that I provided, maybe let's see what there is in here. There's some interesting ones there. So let's go to edit mode, move all these spotlights over. And maybe I'm going to use this one because it's got a nice kind of angle to it, and make it a little bit bigger. Let's put this over to here. Okay, so that's looking good right there, like that maybe. Rotate it a bit this way. So this is kind of the angle I want to cut this in. Maybe not. Let's see. Maybe I want to keep this angle. Maybe I'll choose one of these other ones that has more of a wedge to it. Let's see what this one looks like. Just out of the way. I think this one has the angle I want right here. So I'll use this one, put this one back. Duplicate this one. And bring the duplicate over. Go to the center of it, rotate. Yeah, this is going to catch me a few times by not hitting shift first, so I'm going to click this, rotate, and then hold shift down. That does it at kind of snapped angle intervals. Like so, make it a little bit bigger. And suppose what I want to do is I want to cut this type of shape from here. Okay, so one of the other nice things about Spotlight is that you can create duplicates. So here I'm going to duplicate in the, move this over. Yeah, I think this is kind of a good way to cut it. Maybe like this. A little bit bigger. I delete this one. I don't need it for now. Make this a bit bigger. I don't know why it's making everything bigger, but that's okay. And I just want to move this over to here. Okay. And I want to create a duplicate of this, so there's two of them, and I want to use the extender to move them out away from each other. What is going on? Move this over to here, use extender. Okay, I just need two, and extend it out this way. This is exactly what I need, and I want to move this whole thing over to the center of this, and use the extender some more to go out this way, like so. And I want this kind of groove on the top. These don't look symmetrical to me, so I'm going to use the symmetry options because the center of this is over here. So let me move this over. Okay, now this is more symmetrical. And so here again, I'm just going to use the Alt key and press down, and that will create a subtraction piece for me. Right, so let's hide all this. This is kind of what we're looking at. Turn polyframe off with live Boolean. And I can move these parts up and down to kind of get what I want from kind of the top of the finger, but I want it to move all the way down to maybe here, and maybe, let's see, this is kind of nice because with live Boolean you can kind of see what that's going to look like. Maybe like so, and I'll lift this up. Kind of flush with this, and so this is kind of what I want to get. So that's fantastic, it's brilliant, it's beautiful, that's what I want. Make Boolean mesh, and then here I go with the new one, which looks like this. So let's go ahead and take a look at the topology of this one, and it looks, what is going on here? It looks like all sorts of interesting stuff. Okay, I know what's going on. What happened was I had two, when I did the Boolean, I had two of these visible. I just need one of them visible. Here we go. This will fix it. There it is. Okay, again, I get that weird kind of janky Boolean topology that I don't really like, but here we go. We'll just ZRemesh it again. So just an extra step here. Go to geometry. Again, keep the groups, detect edges. And we want the polygon count to be maybe the same, not adaptive, and let's ZRemesh that, see what we get. RSL Master is saying that this new ZRemesher is so good, and I totally agree with you. Okay, so here we go. Again, pretty nice, clean topology. Look at that. Okay, and what I want to do here is, just for kicks, since it's not a very painful process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt down and try the second algorithm, see if that produces something better. What I had before was just fine, but let's see if we can go even better than what we had. So this detect edges feature in the new ZRemesher is just a godsend. It's really, really, it's like one of those things that just makes sense. I think I like the previous one more, so I think I'm just going to go with the previous regular ZRemesher. And I'm also going to gamble here and say, let's see if I can get this shape with half the number of polygons, see what that looks like. Right, so this is taking a little bit of time, definitely a lot less time than if I was doing this topology from scratch. Oh, no, that wasn't very good. So let's go for the same size, and let me do a couple of things here that will make this better. First thing I'm going to do is mirror and weld it. So it's the same thing on both sides, and also turn symmetry on and do the same thing. This is going to produce something much, much better. And notice that it goes faster too, because it's just going to do half the model and then mirror it over. So here we go. Okay, this is good. One more try with the Alt key. Let's see what that looks like. And that's much better. There we go. I think this is what we're going to go with. Again, just to kind of get rid of some of these little pieces here that kind of don't work. And you can see, actually, if I turn polyframe off, it's pretty clear. But let me just do a quick polish to this, just a tiny bit, to see if I can get something a little bit better. So polish by features here. All I want to do is just maybe put in a number 1, see what that looks like. And that basically got rid of the kinks that I had on that corner. So here is the piece, and it's looking good. And I can continue working on it. So let's go ahead and put some kind of cuts into here. And for this, I'm just going to use the spotlight that came with the initial one, not mine, but this one right here, which is also really useful. So this one that ships with ZBrush as well is one of the nicer ones to use. So let's go to edit mode here and figure out, I think I'm not going to use this one, I'm just going to delete it, and then let's go ahead and pick the one from this other group. So the circle and the square is really useful. I think what we should do is, if you're going to create your own library, is always have the square and the circle, maybe the triangle too, because you can do a lot of great things with just a few simple pieces. So here I'm just going to choose the circle, and I kind of want to keep a pristine copy of it, so I'm going to duplicate it and bring this over and move my again, so just snap to that center and extend it out so I can get kind of a shape like this, right? And then move that over this way. And let's say what I want to do is I want to add a cut in the geometry this way, right there. So again, I'm going to hold Alt down, click Snapshot, 3D, and put this away. And now if I turn polyframe off, I basically created a cut that goes straight through that area, which I like. And I'm kind of getting tired of the horizontals and verticals here, so I want to put this at an angle like this, and maybe even kind of lift it up to here. Let's see what that looks like. So that's creating a really interesting shape. This kind of over here is not very good, so let's see if I can get rid of that somehow. Maybe do this, maybe a little bit more. I think there's no way around it. Let's see what this looks like if it's horizontal. Let's go back to this way, and let's go all the way this way. And let's see what that looks like that. I think this is one of the cool things, is that you can kind of design while you're working on it. And again, you can make changes here too, and to the geometry. I think that looks okay. Maybe rotate it just a little bit like this, move that over. Alright, so this is kind of what we're going to get, and it's a bit too big. I'm going to make it a bit smaller, but make it go all the way through. Let's see what that looks like first. There it is. Just to the center, move it over this way. And I kind of like this. Maybe I can add a couple of them. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. This still wide, but smaller. Have one going in this direction, and then duplicate this out and mirror it this way. Maybe have one in this direction. Mechanically, somehow, you know, there are parts that will go in here. I can put parts in here to get it to look right. Okay, let's see what that looks like. It's looking okay, but not perfect. So maybe I don't need that second one. Maybe I'm just going to stick with one. And place it over here, like so. Okay, that's good. Maybe a little bit smaller. Maybe over this way, like that. Okay, and that's good. So let's go ahead and accept that. Make Boolean mesh. And now I've got this new piece over here. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so again, I've got weird geometry over here, but again, I'm going to use that same method of ZRemeshing. So again, keep the groups, detect the edges, give me the same number of polygons. Actually, I'm just going to double it. and turn adaptive off and let it rip. Right, look at that. Just beautiful. I'm going to do this, I'm going to help it along a little bit by doing a mirror and weld, and also by activating symmetry here, doing another ZRemesh. And there we go. It's just, it's like a miracle. It just, looking at this is just stupendously amazing to get this clean topology right off the bat with pressing one button. There's a bit of funky stuff going on over here. Let's see if it shows up. No. And I bet you if I divide this once, it'll be really smooth. There we go. And of course you can, you know, once you have good topology, you can always kind of use the smoothing brushes to just smooth out some details here. So if you don't want these edges to be this sharp, I can just go ahead and smooth them out. So I can get some really good looking kind of edging over here that's not so machine looking, and yeah. So with Booleans I couldn't do this because it would mess it up, but now that I can ZRemesh it, I can get these nice clean shapes just by kind of lightly just smoothing out these edges like so. Alright, so let's see, how are we doing on time? We're at 8:44. So what I'm going to do off camera is make a few of these parts, doing exactly what I did here, and try to build out that hand and maybe build out some of that body. And then in a couple of Fridays, I should have some new pieces for you. That way we have a little bit of time to explore some other capabilities. Alright. So here I'm just kind of smoothing out these areas just to not have that harsh edge, and created a really nice machine piece here. The beautiful thing is I can print this out too. Like 3D print it and it would look really nice. Some questions, some wiggles and stair step would probably be useful for shapes too, yeah, sure. And shadow boxing. So yeah, this is kind of like shadow box, but it is a little bit better because you can do some other things with it. I think I've got some funky stuff happening over here, so let me see if I can get rid of it. Yep. And so now I'm just basically using good old sculpting techniques to kind of get the shape to be, oops, how did I get to that? Right, use dynamic standard. Where did you go? Maybe I'll use this one. Right, I'm just basically using the old kind of ways of sculpting just to kind of fix this little area over here. But again, considering how fast I got this to be the way it is, it's well worth it. And also maybe I could do my Boolean all in one shot and get a better result, but for all intents and purposes, this is pretty good. And of course, there's nothing to stop me from ZRemeshing it yet again. So now that I've got this, I can ZRemesh it again, maybe go with half the number of polygons. Let's see what we get there. Could you just trace over pictures? Oh yeah, you can. Just, you know, you can do that in Photoshop or in Illustrator or a lot of different programs and trace over shapes and get a library of parts. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, I did ZRemesh it again, and now I'm getting kind of some good results of where I was before. So here, now that kind of kink is gone. And if I'm interested to see what this looks like in KeyShot, I can go ahead and render it in KeyShot. It looks a little bit kind of wonky in certain areas, so I'm just going to kind of straighten it out, like so. And let me see if clay polish helps this at all. Let's try that out. Clay polish. that kind of gives me some crisp edges, but also adds some funkiness, so I'm just going to upload that operation. Okay, so yeah, so you can basically scan some 2D scan some parts, and what basically it needs to be is just a two-tone alpha. So whatever shape you're interested in, you can just bring it in as a texture and then add it to Spotlight. And notice that whatever object you I'll choose this thing right here. So see, there's all the stuff there. But when you go to add it to Spotlight, right, it adds it this way. But it really doesn't matter that there are all these gradations. It's basically going to figure out, some of them are going to be kind of invisible, and some of them are going to be lighter colored. So I think there's a way to even do that in here. I think, is this it? I think there's a way you can kind of choose. Yeah, so see, this is kind of what you're going to get, right? So these are the different options you get, and then at some point you can get different colors. So if I have something like this, for example, and I snapshot 3D it, right, what I would get is probably just going to be like a box, right? So not very interesting. But if you had something that is black and white, so here I'll bring that image back up again. Go to edit mode. Let's get rid of that box I just created. I don't need it. Delete. Okay, so if I have something like this, I could always go in and edit it as well. So I can go in here and bring out paint. I think one of these is paint. This one, right? So, and I can go in here and, based on my brush size, paint this. Make sure that this is the one that's chosen. Move this off, click on paint, and now I can actually draw in this. Let me just blank it out. Alright, so I have nothing in here, and I can even go in here and start drawing out. Maybe I need a bigger brush size. Here we go, bigger draw size, maybe about there. Right, and I can go in and start drawing, and if I hold the Shift key down, I can draw lines. So here is that. So if I want to kind of make a plus looking shape, it's kind of hard not to click on the outside of this. So here's kind of what I'm doing. I go to paint again, and now I want to maybe create a line that goes this way, right? And again, to erase, I think it's Alt, some erasing. And then I'm drawing in. If I click outside of this line, it's always better to start inside and work yourself out. Oops, let's undo that, click on this, choose that, paint, and what I want to do is paint a line that goes across this way, like so, and then maybe one more over here. Again, it all depends on your draw size or your brush size. There we go. And then at any point in time, I can click on Snapshot 3D and create a snapshot of that image. So I can actually even draw it on, but you can just find a bunch of images, bunch of alphas online, and you can use them to do this. Yep, so whatever is white in your Spotlight will be colored, would be a part, and then whatever is transparent would be transparent. And again, just this one that comes with ZBrush, just this first one right here, is pretty powerful. So here, let me just kind of put it in its default view. Whatever is in here is pretty strong. I mean, this could be, you could do a lot with just what's here, right? And then in addition to all of these, I've done 4 more. And again, all I did was just make these alphas in Illustrator, not Illustrator, but the Affinity Designer, and export them out and just have them in here for you. So I've got a bunch of handles here. This one's kind of cool. So I was making these handles, and then I discovered another nifty trick. So let me bring these over real quick. I don't want this one. Let's bring the whole caboodle over. Okay, so I discovered that you can also have them be detached. So I created this thing right here. This one's kind of a neat one. And I discovered this late in the process, so I probably will be doing more of them like this. So here, if I do this one and I go ahead and do Snapshot 3D with it, select it, Snapshot 3D, right? So I've got that done. Let's turn this off. Okay, wait, something is not right. I think the size of it wasn't right. Let me do this one more time. Okay, so bring this on. I think it's this one right here. A little bit bigger, and if I snapshot 3D it, right, and then turn this off, now I've created a part that has different pieces. So what I can do is I can just mask this part over here. Let me go back to the regular mask and just mask this part right here, like so. Right, and then if I press W, I can rotate this. I guess I need to mask a little bit more here. Just a thin piece over here. So now that I've got that mask, I can actually rotate this around, move it down. So now I've got to have a handle and its base, right? So I can kind of have two pieces created at once. And so this could just kind of be like a little handle or hinge or hook that something can connect onto, right? So I just discovered that while I was creating these alphas, that if you have them detached and you kind of plant them down. So I did that with one handle. I didn't do it with the other ones, but of course I will be updating this and also continuing to give it to the Pixologic folks so they can put it in updates or future versions of the program. Okay, so yeah, I mean, you can do some amazing stuff. I mean, this is kind of cool too. Like if you want to create like this kind of a pattern on your, I'll choose this one right here. Right, I want to create a kind of a cut pattern with this. I just move it over to here like that, and make it a little bit bigger, right, like so. And then I just basically do a Boolean version of it, but it's going to go inwards. Right, and then I'm actually going to get rid of these two. Duplicate, delete. Okay, I don't need this one, I don't need this one, and this thing here, the hook thing, I don't need that one either. Right, so what I'm going to do is I just created one of these guys over here. And notice that what it is doing is it is going through, is not Boolean on? It is, right? It's going right straight through. So I basically just created this feature by using this part. And of course, if I have that part, I can hold Control down and create another copy of it and rotate it around this way maybe. And now I've got like this extending out this way. Right? So you can create some really, really cool kind of cut lines and whatnot, and just patterns in the object that you created by using this capability, right? So one of these is enough, and maybe put it over here like so, and that's good and all, and then just generate the Boolean mesh. What I recommend doing is, if you're going to generate the Boolean mesh, is just to have all the different parts kind of listed, and then just maybe put them in a folder, and you can Boolean the whole folder in one shot. So hopefully this has kind of given you some insight on how to use some of the new capabilities in ZBrush. And since we spent this week or this day mostly going over some of the new features, I will add another session to the podcast or to the streams. So instead of being 8, I'll do 9, and next time we'll just be focusing on working on the model and not looking at some of the new features. But again, I just created this piece here. I like it. I'm just going to go ahead and go to geometry, or sorry, go to subtool and make Boolean mesh. So I have that Boolean piece. And let's take a look at it. I think, where did it put it? Is it, did it make it? Boolean mesh. Yep, there it is right there. So now I've got this piece right here. And if I want to see what this looks like in a kind of a cartoonish anime looking look, I can always go to the render menu and go to the list of filters here. Actually, let me BPR it first. right? So here is, actually I should have let that go. So here is kind of the, let me kind of duplicate this, bring it down, rotate it this way, duplicate it again, move it here, rotate it back this way, and rotate it this way this time, like so, and maybe duplicate it one more time, bring it down and rotate it this way, and this way. I'm assuming that the features maybe are a little bit different. So here I've got all this, and I press one button, and I've got it in a blueprint, right? I mean, just this, it's crazy. You know, if I have like some sort of situation where it requires a blueprint to be there, or maybe in a movie or something, the part has to be kind of visible this way, you can very easily do it. Now, one other thing I want to do before we finish here, I'll go a little bit over because I started a little bit later, is I want to show you some of the things that I experimented with here. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Load Movie. And I made some movies yesterday of some renders that I did with PBR. So I loaded that movie in. Let's go ahead and play it. So here is a kind of the blueprint render, but I actually did a turntable. So I used the turntable feature in the movie and did a turntable of the robot. So not only can you do a one-dimensional blueprint, but you can also do a three-dimensional blueprint. And I've got a bunch of other movies too. So let me go ahead and load the other one. So here is this next movie here, and let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Movie and play movie. This is just a smaller version, I guess, of the blueprint, but I have a couple more. How about this one right here? Let's look at what that one looks like. So here's one with some of that other photorealistic render, and this one kind of looks, is there a way to make this loop? Let me see here. Loop, movie, not in the modifiers, timeline, tracks, overlay, image. I'm sure there is. I don't want to spend time figuring it out right now, so I'll just play it one more time and you guys can watch it. Is this it? No. Okay. So you can see here that some really interesting things are happening with the non-photorealistic render. Play it one more time. And almost every one of these is kind of an interesting look. So this could be in a promo or a movie to kind of help move the thing forward. Let me load one more. I think I did 3 or 4 of them. So here's this one right here. So this looks like a pencil sketch that is actually moving in 3D. So play that a few times too. So yeah, it's been very interesting working with this new version. New capabilities are really going to help me with my designs. And this time I just kind of went through them really briefly, but next time we'll kind of get back on track, get that hand built. And I will do some of these parts maybe off screen. And then after I'm done with those, maybe I can create an insert mesh brush with all of them and start kind of populating our mech with some of these parts. So with that, I'll kind of open this up for some last minute questions. And if anybody has any questions, this would be a good time to ask. And I'll wait a few seconds here for the Facebook and other streams to catch up. And if there are no questions, I bid you all a good night, or good morning, or good day, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.